There's a lot of blue in this video, my walls, and this beautiful Focus RS. She's in here for one very good reason. Not only do we get a chance to drive this later on, but my dear friend Shelby is having us protect the entire car with XPEL. A $40,000, $44,000 car with a $5,000 XPEL job, is it worth it? Let me show you just how much we're pampering the car, and then you can make the decision whether or not that's something that you would do. In my opinion, and this has nothing to do with me making money off of this, it has everything to do with the fact that I love the fact that this thing is basically wearing a full body condom. You're gonna keep it pretty safe. And not only that, is in this case, the entire edges of everything, I've done most of the front so far, are already wrapped. So that means rock chips, my hands, little kids at car shows, none of that is touching your paint. So how obsessive am I about wrapping cars? Well, I only take a handful every year, and this is, generally it's a friend nepotism sort of situation. I help my friends out first. But this is the corner of the hood. Let me show you a close-up of just how obsessive I get wrapping these cars. That edge is the only exposed edge of this entire hood. Both up here and down here are completely wrapped. While my hand's resting completely on XPEL, let me tell you why I'm so obsessed at doing such low volume, high quality cars. This front edge, this is the front edge of the hood, was damaged on the Diablo because when I first got the car, it had some sort of clear film, but it was cut so that way it would stick to the top of the hood, not underneath it. What happened? Sure enough, a rock chip hit the very front edge of my hood and actually shattered the paint underneath the film. So the thousands of dollars that I'd spent, on the car, but had I had the opportunity to spend even more to get that little bit done, there would have been a non-issue. Nothing would have happened. So I take care of my customer cars that obsessively. This isn't meant to be a sales gimmick. This is just literally why you get burned out if you do too many cars. So look at that. It doesn't even look like there's film on there. It took me 15 minutes to do the hood. If you're an XPEL guy or any sort of clear bra guy, you know what I'm talking about. The hood takes 15 minutes to do. Line up the corners, slap it down. But wrapping the edges took a couple hours. While Ford put a lot of love and energy into making their 2.3 liter inline-4 EcoBoost engine, they did not put that same sort of love and care into the pinch welds on the hood. Granted, it's not their job to, but you see how close this weld is, this pinch is to the very corner of the hood. Why is that so important? Because XPEL film, or any thick film in general, requires at least 1/8 of an inch of flat surface to lock into. This film's warranted for 10 years, so you want it to stay down there. If there's no surface, if there's just curve, it's gonna peel back up. While the RS itself might not be the most expensive car I've ever wrapped, it certainly is one of the more complex. The front bumper alone is 5 pieces. Why 5 pieces? Isn't it just one front bumper? You're technically correct, but the problem is you print film two-dimensionally. The issue is you're on a 3-dimensional bumper. In the case of the RS is that they have multiple points where if you were to print it all in one piece, it would bunch up and it just would not be physically possible. Film doesn't work that way. So there are 4 major pieces: centerpiece, side, and side. Sounds like some sort of cha-cha or some sort of electric slide shuffle situation. I'm going to show you how to install the very last piece on the front bumper. Given the circumstances here, there's one piece of film done in the center area, leaving a very unnoticeable but important edge to one piece of film. The same thing is happening on the middle part down here. Here's the creative, artistic, most difficult part of installing film. This piece has to line up with the very edge of the fender, but you can't go too far or it'll peel up here. Has to make it to the wheel well. Has to bend over this lip here. Has to properly make it through here. And then after all of that adventure, butt up perfectly. And I mean like exactly parallel to the other piece that's been laid over here. So there's no, or there, at least there's minimal seam. If you're looking for problems in XPEL film or any film that's clear bra, you will find them. It's just the nature of 2-dimensional flat film being put on a 3-dimensional car. It's a protective film. You sure as hell, once you get good at it, can make it pretty damn invisible. If you're gonna stick around through the rest of the video, it's gonna be a basic how-to install film. It's not so much to teach you what to do, because I guarantee somebody's gonna critique the shit out of me, but it's just showing you what it takes to install film properly. In this case, and it's kind of interesting because I came up with this a while ago, and it's actually kind of common practice now, is I've stripped all of the wax from the paint. So this is paint. Any sort of paint correction that you wanted to do, you do, because it's going to be locked into the film for 10 years. But at this point, use some sort of polymer-based quick wax or any sort of polymer-based surface prep, because it gives you a little bit of slide. It gives you a little bit of smooth that lets you glide the film just that little bit easier before you lock it in. So we're gonna, in this case, we're using Adams. It's a good company. Not being paid to do this, but just happens to be a decent product I like to use. So we're gonna use that, this little detail spray. I've used a variety of them. Let's be honest, they all work. To clean off the surface one more time before we quickly, right after that, cover this with film. Some of the issues you don't want to have happen is you don't want to spray into these corners heavily, because what happens, this detail spray gets in here, it collects, you put XPEL film on there, it gets under the film. You don't want liquid under the film, you're just using this to clean the surface. Big difference, and you'll have problems if you do it wrong. So you want to spray it on the towel instead of the surface at this point to keep the excess liquid from pooling up in weird areas. Generally speaking, there's XPEL gel, and there's other sort of like surface lubricants that you use. You spray it on the film and then put the film on the paint. In this case, personal preference, again, everybody's got their own mojo and secret voodoo to getting things done. I like to spray the very hard edges, these very tough spots right there that you're gonna need extra goo, extra gel to move along. Spray the rest of the film. You don't want to spray into these top areas because heaven forbid there's that little bit of salt, road salt, a little bit whatever you didn't perfectly clean the car. If you spray up in there, you're gonna get shit coming down into the film. So I tend to spray the high profile, massive change areas down here and then spray the rest of the goo onto the film and then install film. Let's go ahead and do that. So you can see we've got the last little bit of juice on there. And there we go, she's all finished. Of course, there's probably, if you're realistic and not just criticizing my work in your normal shop, there's probably a lot of profanity between these two steps. I'm gonna let you have your imagination guide you through what happened between those two steps. But here we are, nothing under the film, fresh paint surface. What's the worst that can happen? I'm about to take you on a journey of making every cut edge fit perfect. You're gonna start feeling out a car. Obviously, this is one of the first RSs I've done. I've done a lot of McLarens and Lamborghinis, but each car has its, you could have a very simple car be very complex. So there's no exception here. What I found though is that Fords tend to like being tacked in these corners, because this is a pre-cut piece from my plotter, cutting in right here, tacking it down gently because you might have to rework it, and then working over. If you're into film, you'll notice those are not going to go down quietly. So you have to stretch the film in this area. You stretch it too far, you're going to have an overlapping piece down there. So there's really an art, a massage. You've got nice massage hands. These Italian massage hands are going to take this XPEL piece and wrap it against the car with love. So like I said, is that you start finding certain areas of the car that are good places to start tacking down. You know this has to be here no matter what. So we can start there gently. One of my biggest disappointment about cars is the fact that no matter how good you get at film, you will never cover 100% of the surface. These edges, not possible. The space between these two, sure, you could actually take the bumper off and wrap the film in, but then the film's gonna get all jostled and ripped to pieces when you hit bumps and the body panels move as they're meant to. So you still have to make peace with the fact that you have to get close to the edges, but not start going over them. If you start going over the edges with film, protective film, it will come back to bite you and you'll be doing warranty work. So you gotta get close, but no cigar. So while the customer might, it depends on how good of a salesperson you are and how realistic of a person you are while selling it. If you look closely, you'll find the seams. You'll always find the seams when it's a really dusty day or environment. But what's going on here is I've gotten as close as possible without going too far. So one of the things that you like to do is get these air bubbles, just pet them out of the way. If the surface of the paint is not done with a polymer or whatnot, if you just simply polish it and leave it there, you'll see tons of bubbles because you screwed up. This thing's not going to want to slide smoothly, and you're going to be replacing that film pretty quick. So in this case, I'm getting a lot of the air out of the way so I can see what the problem is, or at least the challenge. This area is certainly going to be something that you want to stretch. If you were to pull from here, this is just basic film interest if you're into this. If you pull from here, it's going to pull the most at the thinnest area of film, kind of basic physics of film. That's not the case here. It does take some practice and some experience to know that this needs to be stretched wherever there are these little extra fingers, I guess you can call them, of film. So this area is certainly to about here is where we need to massage. So we're going to take it and just gently, look at how quickly that all disappeared. Now you can get away with probably, quite frankly, something like that, where you've got really small ones. Once you squeegee the film, those will go down and stay down for good. But once you get to, well, I've gently palmed it and it's stuck there. So that's where we're gonna keep it. I'm not gonna push my luck. Again, because this is machine cut and XPEL knows best, you don't wanna pull this too hard because this piece right here is gonna start overlapping the existing piece. So we're gonna just kind of measure it up. We're gonna put these all together where they're supposed to be. And sure enough, these things are pretty lined up. So we're in really good shape right now. We're gonna start tacking it down gently and working our way from the top to the bottom. One of the reasons I like to do that is I like to take the gel that I've built up in here and use that to keep the rest of the film really separated from the paint until it's ready to be put down, because you end up finding that you're gonna have to readjust it as you go along. So use everything to your advantage. While your goal is to keep your hands from under the film, it happens, let's be honest. Again, I'm not filming this trying to show you an XPEL official installation. I'm trying to show you what really happens. And in this case, you're gonna start seeing this line, this seam coming together. Down here, because of nature, the way the world works, the plotter might have misplotted, whatever, you start seeing a little bit of difference. So what I'm doing is gently massaging the film to get as close as possible there. Because I know from the other side, I'm gonna lock this down first and then kind of work it all into here. But that's, again, it's just, you just start learning this as you go. And the film has to perfectly butt up between these two pieces right here, or you will see a seam. And that's, you could spend hours installing it properly, but you mess up this one spot, this one particular area on the whole car, and the customer's rightfully not gonna be happy. Okay, so this is a perfect example of how things can go wrong really quick if you haven't prepared the surface, or if you're not familiar with how XPEL film bunches up or handles bunching up. What you see here are very subtle, they would call them fingers. You can see air kind of popping back into and under the film in 3 little spots there. I purposely want to show you this. Of course, everybody will show you perfection, but what's going on there is that the film wasn't stretched to the absolute maximum. So this edge has got a lot of tension, this does not. The nice part is that I've cleaned this whole area, I sprayed everything, so you're not gonna get road grime generally sucked in from under the headlight into there. So we're good there. But as you'd expect, the goal is to push it all back out that way. You'll see them occasionally pop back up like that. The solution, if it's a very small finger like that, you gotta wait till there's less moisture, squeeze it out, use a rag, and those will go down perfectly. There we go. It took 1 hour and 5 minutes to get to this point, and here's a couple of the highlights of that. But I did it. I successfully, we'll take a very bright light to show you this. I successfully was able to merge these pieces here, as well as these pieces here. You can see how everything butts up perfectly together. That is so important. That's a very big attention to detail. You can try and sell the customer that nothing, there might be challenges that come in the way, but this is how it's done properly. This thing's gonna be covered for quite some time. I'm gonna conclude the XPEL section of this video and let you know that once I get the rest of the car done, Shelby, the owner, which is kind of cool, Shelby, Mustang, Ford, and all that, Shelby and I are gonna show you just what it's like owning a Focus RS. So check out that video in the near future.